Greetings, my scattered brothers and sisters in the Lord. Trust you know that wherever you're scattered, the Lord is with you, and that you know that He is making a way for you. Well, we continue in John chapter 11. Jesus is out by the Jordan River, and he has left Jerusalem, but he gets word that his good friend Lazarus is sick. And Jesus tells his disciples this sickness will not end in death, but God is going to be glorified through it. Jesus waits a couple days and then he tells his disciples, "Come, Lazarus is asleep and we must go and awaken him." The disciples think that it's probably a good thing for Lazarus to sleep, that maybe he'll get well. And Jesus makes it plain to them that Lazarus has died and that it is time to go to him and to awaken him. So they make their way back, and when they enter into Bethany, the town where Lazarus and his sisters, Mary and Martha, live, Martha, the older sister, comes out to greet Jesus. And she tells Jesus, "Lord, if you would have been here, my brother would not have died." She's convinced that Jesus is too late to do anything, at least about her brother. But she does have this word that even now I know, Jesus, that God will give you whatever you ask. And Jesus tells her that your brother will rise again. Martha, who believes in the resurrection, says, "I know that he will rise again in the last day." And Jesus tells her, "I am the resurrection and I am the life. And that whoever believes in me, even though they die, they will live. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die." And he asked her, "Do you believe this?" And she says, "Yes, Lord, I know that you are the Christ. I know that you are the Son of God who was to come." And then end of conversation, and she goes back to the house, and Jesus kind of is left to follow her back. She doesn't get it. She has the right confession that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. She believes the right thing in terms of believing in the resurrection, but she just doesn't get it that that resurrection that she hopes for, that it's actually present in and through Jesus. That Jesus is the one who brings God's future into the present. And so Jesus announces to her, "I am the resurrection. And whoever believes in me, even though they die, they will live." I want to talk about that for a moment. When Jesus says, "I am the resurrection and I am the life," by now, we've been in the Gospel of John long enough to know that whenever Jesus makes an "I am" statement, that he is pronouncing God's name over himself. It recalls God's self-revelation of his name at the burning bush to Moses, "I am who I am." And so when Jesus uses this "I am" language, he is asserting that God is present in him, through him, that he embodies God. I am. And then when he says, "I am the resurrection," he's asserting that he has the power to give life even to the dead. That Lazarus' death is not going to end in Lazarus being dead. That Jesus has the power and is about to exercise it to give Lazarus new life, to raise him up from the dead, that not even death is a match for Jesus. And then when Jesus says, "I am the resurrection," one more aspect to it. Jesus is asserting that that hoped for resurrection in the future, when the dead will be raised and those who have lived life trusting in God will be resurrected to new life, and those who have lived life resisting God will be resurrected to judgment. Jesus says, "I am the resurrection." That future resurrection that Martha and was hoping for, Martha and many believing Jews were hoping for, Jesus is saying, "I'm bringing that into the present, that I am the resurrection, and that whoever believes in me, they're not going to die, they're going to participate in that resurrection as well." Other places we read where Jesus is the firstborn from among the dead, that when Jesus is crucified and resurrected, that hope for resurrection, it is now present. And Jesus' resurrection is kind of a guarantee that future resurrection is coming, and it's coming for those who believe in him. So Martha doesn't quite get it, but she's going to discover that indeed Jesus is the resurrection. How about you and me? Do we get it? Do we really believe that Jesus is the resurrection? See, when we believe that he is the resurrection, we begin to recognize that while we may be under a death sentence, that sentence is rather temporary, and that sentence is not the final sentence. That when we believe in Jesus, even though we die, we have the hope, the promise, the guarantee of resurrection, that Jesus will raise us and we will be his brothers among the resurrected and his sisters. And so, wherever you might be scattered, and however death might be trying to threaten you, just remember, we believe in the one who conquered death. We believe in the one who is the resurrection and who will give us new life, who will raise us up. Death is just temporary. Jesus is the resurrection, and that's permanent. God bless. Have a great day, and may your faith grow in Jesus, the one who gives resurrection, because he beat death himself. God bless.